For 30 years, the sun had risen over the whispering woods to find Mrs. Bramble already at her desk. A badger of great dignity and even greater patience, she had spent 3 decades smoothing the ruffled feathers and sharpening the dull pencils of the forest's youth. Her classroom, nestled in the hollow of a great, ancient oak, smelled of cedar shavings, dried clover, and the sweet, lingering scent of old books. Today, however, the chalkboard was clean, the chairs were tucked neatly under the desks, and Mrs. Bramble wore her finest knitted cardigan. It was her final day before retirement, and a quiet, bittersweet stillness filled the air as she prepared to close the heavy wooden door for the last time. Bevel stepped inside and opened his portfolio, laying out a set of intricate blueprints across the low reading table. The lines were crisp and precise, a dance of angles and curves. "Do you remember the day I cried because my birdhouse was lopsided?" he asked with a chuckle. "You didn't fix it for me. You sat beside me on the moss and showed me how to find the center of gravity using a piece of string and a pebble. You told me that a strong foundation isn't just about stone, it's about the integrity of the math behind it. I think of those words every time I break ground on a new project." Just as she reached for her sun hat, a heavy thumping echoed against the door. Mrs. Bramble smoothed her apron and opened it to find a large, sturdy beaver wearing a sharp charcoal suit and carrying a leather portfolio. It was Bevel, once a kit who couldn't sit still and constantly chewed on his rulers. Now, he stood before her as the forest's most renowned architect. "Mrs. Bramble," he said, his voice deep and resonant, "I couldn't let the sun set on your career without telling you that every bridge I build and every lodge I design is held together by the geometry you taught me when I thought I was only learning to measure sticks." Before Mrs. Bramble could respond, a sudden rush of wind swirled through the classroom, and a magnificent owl with feathers the color of a twilight sky swept through the window. It was Stratos, a former student who had always kept his head in the clouds, dreaming of the world beyond the canopy. He had become a world-renowned explorer and cartographer, traveling across mountain ranges and oceans that most forest dwellers only saw in picture books. Around his neck hung a brass compass, and tucked into his talons was a scroll of parchment, worn at the edges and smelling of salt air and distant spices. "I have seen the aurora in the north and the great reefs of the south," Stratos hooted softly, his golden eyes shimmering with gratitude. He unfurled his map, which was covered in delicate charcoal sketches of landmarks far and wide. "But every time I felt lost in a storm or confused by a foreign horizon, I remembered the geography lessons in this very room. You taught us that the world is a giant puzzle, and that curiosity is the only map one truly needs. You gave me the courage to fly beyond the last tree of the whispering woods because you made me believe that I belonged everywhere." The group grew as a tall, graceful deer stepped elegantly through the door, his antlers reaching toward the rafters. This was Galen, a soft-spoken buck who had once been the shyest fawn in the class. He was now the head physician at the forest infirmary, known for his steady hooves and his vast knowledge of healing herbs. He carried a small wooden box filled with glass vials and dried bundles of lavender. "Mrs. Bramble," he said, bowing his head respectfully, "the woods are healthier today because of the biology and compassion you instilled in us." Galen opened his kit, showing Mrs. Bramble a collection of rare tinctures he had prepared. "I remember how you used to take us on wonder walks through the undergrowth," he recalled. "You showed us how the smallest lichen played a part in the forest's health. You taught me that every life, no matter how small or quiet, deserves to be cared for with a gentle touch. When I treat a patient now, I try to use that same kindness you showed me when I scraped my knee during recess. You didn't just teach us facts, you taught us how to care for one another." "We have a gift for you," Bevel said, stepping forward with a small, beautifully crafted wooden box. Inside was a golden bell, etched with the names of every class Mrs. Bramble had ever taught. "This bell won't call us to lessons anymore," Stratos added, but whenever you ring it, know that your voice still echoes in our hearts, guiding us through our lives. Mrs. Bramble took the bell, her paws trembling slightly, and for the first time in 30 years, the formidable schoolmistress found herself at a loss for words, her heart overflowing with a quiet, radiant joy. The afternoon sun began to dip low, casting long, rhythmic shadows across the schoolhouse floor. Bevel, Stratos, and Galen stood together, a testament to 30 years of devotion. They spoke of other classmates, the squirrels who were now engineers, the rabbits who had become poets, and the foxes who ran the forest councils. Each story was a thread in a vast, colorful tapestry that Mrs. Bramble had spent her life weaving. She realized then that she wasn't just retiring from a job, she was witnessing the blooming of a garden she had planted decades ago. As the stars began to twinkle through the canopy, Mrs. Bramble walked out of the schoolhouse one last time. She didn't feel old or tired, she felt light, carried by the love of the many lives she had touched. The whispering woods seemed to hum a song of gratitude as she walked toward her cozy burrow. She knew that even though her chalkboard was clean, her lessons would continue to grow, build, and heal long after the last bell had rung. Her legacy wasn't in the building she left behind, but in the soaring wings and steady hearts of the students she had taught to shine.